Hello, everyone. This is Michelle, and I'm here to do your May 2020 interactive astrology reading. We're going to have some fun with this reading. It's interactive because you can take your own natal chart and apply these interpretations to that chart. You can make it very specific for yourself. You don't have to actually, though, have your natal chart handy. You will probably know where these things are happening anyways, but it can be some fun to get the natal chart out and see exactly where this is happening in terms of the houses of your chart. I do currently I like the website AstroSeek. I'm going to give them a plug because I think they have a very good chart generator, and so all you need is your birth date and time and the location of birth, and you can bring up just about any kind of chart there. All right, and so we're going to get started with what is showing up for me in particular for the month of May. I'm going to start with Mercury, actually, Mercury in Taurus. Now, this is the little glyph for Mercury if you're not familiar with that. Looks like a little person with maybe some horns on it. Okay, so there's Mercury starting out at 6 degrees. I'm going to bring it up to the ninth. We're going to do I'll just slowly bring it up actually, and so you'll see the planets on the outer wheel moving just a little bit. You can see how those planets are moving. The Sun and Mercury are pulling away. We can see from that Uranus conjunction. Look at them, boy, right together there, conjunct. Now, combust actually, it looks like. Okay, let's continue. I want to go all the way up to the ninth. Look at Venus moving. Venus is moving very, very quickly at this time, all right? And we have now, excuse me, not Venus. I said Venus, didn't I? I meant Mercury. Mercury is moving very quickly at this time. Good grief, Venus will be retrograde. So here we have Mercury, and what is really drawing my attention is the Earth trine, because we can see how Mercury now is in a position to trine Pluto and Jupiter. Right here, if we bring it ahead just a bit, you can see how just over that couple of days, we have this beautiful Earth trine here. Now, if we continue along, we'll see that the Sun will become involved, right? Let's bring it right up to the 15th. We can see the Sun moving there into position. Now, I'm really picking dates that are exact. Like here is an exact conjunction between the Sun at 24 degrees of Earthy Taurus and 24 degrees of Earthy Capricorn here where Pluto is, right? So that's exact. We can feel these things going on before and after, but those are the dates that I'm looking at. And I'm thinking about how Mercury started out and then the Sun followed up. What is this telling us? I mean, amidst all of the tension, oh my goodness, look at these squares. We can see them here. Amidst all of this, what is the Earth trine saying to us? And it involves the Sun, which makes it particularly important. I feel that the Sun and Mercury are telling us that this can be a time for a very earthy retreat, or we might say a down to earth retreat. This would mean really just taking time to enjoy home life and to be grateful for small pleasures of home life. Boy, that has everything to do with the sign of Taurus, doesn't it? I mean, just taking time to enjoy a good meal with a good glass of wine, if you so prefer, and just really enjoying that and being grateful. It could mean, for example, taking a nap on a warm afternoon. If you live in the city and you have your window open, you can hear, instead of all the cars buzzing by, there is this silence, and it's a beautiful silence. We can hear the birds singing. We can hear the wind blowing through the leaves of the trees. This is a very rare opportunity. We can find our inner resources at this time. Of course, Taurus is all about resources, right? The resources that we bring into ourselves. This can be a time where we can really locate our own inner resources. Let's take a look also at something else that is backing up this idea. This is what we really enjoy about astrology, is when we see these overlapping messages, and it's all of the retrogrades here. Because at the beginning of the month, we can see only Pluto here is retrograde. We see the R with the little cross through it, meaning retrograde. But now, by the time we have reached mid-month, Jupiter and Saturn are also retrograde along with Pluto, and Venus. Venus is also retrograde. So there's an idea of it can be a time to just rest. Take advantage of this. If you can get into nature in any way, such as a park, something along those lines, to just breathe fresh air, that lovely afternoon nap, that delicious meal, this is, I think, where we are going to find relief in the month of May. All right, now we're going to go to our next aspect that we're going to focus on, and that is going to be Venus in Gemini. Now we can see right here, Venus is starting out at 19 degrees of Gemini, right here at the beginning. And then we can see how Venus goes all the way up to 21 degrees of Gemini, but it is starting to retrograde, and so it will appear in the skies. If we could see it in the skies, it would appear that Venus was moving actually backwards. All right, of course, it doesn't actually move backwards, but it appears that way. Venus will be retrograde from May 13th until June 24th. The retrograde starts at 21 degrees, and by June 24th, it will be all the way back to 5 degrees of Gemini. By the end of this month, it will reach just about right the middle of Gemini. All right, so let's just think about this. Venus is a very creative sign. This is all about creativity, appreciation of beauty and art, any type of artistic venture. And then we have Gemini, which is all about expression. We are, though, in a retrograde, and there's a lot of retrograde energy, and so I feel that this is going to be a very good time for researching, brainstorming, or digging through any kinds of old materials that we have to generate creative thought. I feel that many creative people will be laying a foundation for future artistic types or expressive types of work. Now, I want to bring something else into this, and that is that we have Mars here at 21 degrees of Aquarius. All right, this is beautiful to see. I'm talking about a lot of trine energy here because, typically we think of trine energy as, oh, well, that's just kind of like take it easy and relax, don't get a lot of things done. But I think we really need it at this time amidst all of the pressure. Mars in Aquarius is suggesting that some people will have sparks of creative genius at this time, and this can ignite a fire within that will have staying power for the future. This, of course, ties in to the idea of the earthy retreat, and for some of us, we will be getting these creative ideas as we finally, for once, get a time to actually rest, if possible. I don't mean to downplay the big issues that are going on at this time financially, but I am saying that for some of us, we are going to find 2, 3, even 4 months of time where we actually do not have to be so occupied with the regular day-to-day goings on. And because of that, we can find during this rest period that we are tapping into our creativity and that sparks of genius around creativity can come into play. All right, now let's go ahead and talk about Uranus. Of course, we cannot even possibly think about the month of May without talking about Uranus. And here we see at the beginning of the month it started at 6 degrees of Taurus, and now we see it is at 7 degrees of Taurus. All right. And it doesn't, of course, move very quickly. It takes Uranus about 7 years to get through a sign, so that's very slow. The faster moving planets, of course, would be the Sun and Mercury. Now, what's really capturing my attention, though, at this time is the Saturn moving into Aquarius. Right? We're looking at fixed signs here with Aquarius and Taurus, and 1 degree of Aquarius, 6, 7 degrees of Taurus. This is a loose square. And let me say also that Saturn will be retrograding also, right? So we have Saturn retrograding May 11th to September 28th that will go back into Capricorn. But we are getting just a touch of this concept of Saturn in Aquarius now. It will come back to us later. And so let's just think about this and then we'll relate it to our charts to see how this perhaps fits in. Saturn, of course, it's about restrictions, right? We know that Saturn is about restrictions, and Aquarius is about humanity as a whole. And so we are seeing on a global scale, people are enduring a lot of restrictions. Saturn also represents order, right? Normalcy, tradition, the old way of doing things. And yet Aquarius represents the new. And so we have an interesting interplay here. Let's take a look now at Uranus. Uranus is a disruptive force. It's, of course, the modern ruler of Aquarius, and so it's all about the new. Right? It's all about the new. But Taurus is a fixed environment, right? And so things are not just going to change very easily. There's going to be a lot of resistance with Uranus in Taurus. And so where is Taurus in your particular chart? You can get it right down to these early degrees, perhaps look at the early degrees, but it could be almost the whole sign of Taurus. What houses are involved there? Because you might notice in that particular area of life, either for yourself or you're witnessing it in others, that there is a resistance to change. We are also going to see, I feel from this message coming in from Saturn and Aquarius, that people are beginning now to feel very strongly the need for order and normalcy. Many people are going to want things the old way, the traditional way, the regular way. And yet, in a certain sense, it just cannot be the same. And that is the Aquarius energy. We are almost being pushed into, or you might even say forced into, a new way of life. Now, some people, I'm not saying that this would apply to you. Again, it might apply to you, that's possible, but it could also be something that you're just seeing around you. With this energy that I am talking about here, we have Uranus in Taurus, Saturn Aquarius, Some people are going to adopt a very resistant, we might even say negative mindset about the change that is upon us. Some people will begin to dig their heels in, a very Taurus energy, of course, right? Against this disruption. The change needs to occur with Uranus. We know that the change needs to occur, but we are going to hear people saying things like, I'm not changing. I'm going to do things the old way. We will begin to see this. Now, this is a it's kind of an odd twist here because the people that are defying change, that are saying, I'm not changing, that will actually become the alternative way of thinking. And so we will see a few people acting out, saying, I'm not changing, I'm not changing, and that will represent more of a countercultural type of thought. The mainstream is going to flow more with the changes that need to occur. Now, this is hardly a prediction because we can already see it happening. It's more the planets reflecting what is occurring on Earth. It is merely a reflection. It's just like any divinatory tool. Anytime we do divination, whether it's cards or we're runes or anything that we're looking at in nature, we are picking up images and patterns that are a reflection of the current time. And so to bring this into your own life, what you can do is look at those fixed signs, Taurus and Aquarius. Where are those in your chart? So this is going to tell you something about that I want to say the disruptive energy, but also the sense of how difficult it is to go through the change. You might also sense some resistance, we might even say sort of building up a little bit. Let us say, and so here we will just talk about the houses a little bit. Let us say that Taurus is in your first house. Okay, so that would be taking the sign of Taurus and pushing it up to this location of the wheel. This is the first house. All right, this is the first house, and so we're just going to take Taurus and back it up. Let's say you are looking at your natal chart, and as we speak, you see Taurus is in the first house. Okay, or in another example, let us say that we take the sign of Taurus and we move it all the way up here to the fifth. So let's say you have Taurus on the fifth. All right. It could be actually taking up both houses, fourth and fifth. That's probably more likely. For some of you, it might be just within the house itself, which is called intercepted. But in any case, where is Taurus? Is it here? Or is Taurus in the ninth? The first, fifth, and the ninth are the houses of life. And so you could find that the changes that are occurring now are particularly impacting your sense of identity, or perhaps your sense of being able to get up every day in the morning and just feel full of inspiration and joy. That could be impacted right now. Or it could impact your sense of faith. You might be undergoing a very significant change in terms of what you believe in at this time. Let's take a look at the houses of wealth. That would be the second. That's where Taurus is in this wheel. So let's say you do have Taurus in the second, Taurus in the sixth, or Taurus in the 10th. In which case you can find that this sense of very drastic change is occurring around your work life, your career, or material needs. Now that's actually happening to many people at this time, but if you also have Uranus in those houses, you could be particularly feeling a very drastic change. Let's keep in mind that with Uranus, change occurs, it can be difficult, but in the end, things become better. Let me just say that. if you have Uranus in the third, the seventh, or the 11th house, the houses of relationships, then you could find that these changes that are occurring are really impacting your social life, your partnerships, perhaps even with the 11th, your dreams, your wishes, perhaps those are changing now. They have to change, perhaps, based on everything that is occurring. Let's take one last look. That would be the fourth, the eighth, or the 12th. These are the houses of emotion, we might say, or some would call them the houses of endings. All right. These are very mysterious houses. And so if you have Taurus on one of those house cusps, fourth, eighth, or 12th, it could be that the changes are occurring, of course, on the outside, but that you're feeling something much deeper inside. You can feel something subconscious really stirring very deep inside of you. I'm glad that actually that came up at this time, that I just wasn't really planning it, but I decided to go into that. And the reason that I'm glad I did is because the next aspect that we're going to talk about has to do with the need for expression. Now, I haven't moved the planets around too much, have I? Like I did last month. Boy, we were jumping all over. But this aspect, we're in mid-March, and the aspect that I would like to talk about next is Venus in Gemini. Venus is in Gemini all month long. And so we don't have to move this chart around too much to look at this, but we have Venus in Gemini squaring Uranus in Pisces. All right, so we have a mutable square here, suggesting some tension, surely some tension that is going on. I feel that this is telling me that we really need to express what's going on inside. In some way, we have to find a way to get this out, what is going on a deep spiritual or soul level. When we think about Neptune and Pisces also, this brings up the concept of solitude. How is the solitude or the separation from other people impacting us? For some of us, it could be that we are really around people a lot more than normal too. That's true. And so that could come into play as well if we have many people in the same household. But certainly the social scene or our regular social patterns have changed. And for some, this is going to have to do with solitude. What does that feel like for you? Because we have a square here, there's some difficult energy. We're talking about communication and expression with Venus in Gemini, and I feel it's going to be very important to do some journaling or reflection. I'm picking this up to get the old energy out rather than just let it all just roll around inside over and over. Just get that old energy out in any way that you can. Now that brings me up to the last aspect that I'm going to speak about, and it's also similar. It has to do with, again, the same signs, Gemini and Pisces, but we're going to now finally let's have a little fun. I'm going to move the sun up very slowly here. Here we have the sun, okay, at 25 degrees on the 16th of May. Let's move that sun up. We can see it moving 1 degree a day. We know the sun moves 1 degree a day, and so we can see those numbers just creeping up, creeping up. Now at the same time, we're looking at Mars. Mars has now moved from Aquarius, fixed Aquarius, into mutable Pisces. All right. And so we're just moving that up. And this is right about where we want to see it. We're looking at the 21st, okay, of May. And at this point, we now have the sun in Gemini squaring Mars in Pisces. All right, we can see this mutable square here. So we're kind of really getting back to that idea that it's going to be very important to communicate. We're going to actually jump all the way up to June in just a second because there's something interesting that happens here. And because it's important, the message that's coming through is going to take us into June. And it is this, boy, Mars in Pisces. There's a possibility that resentment and anger can be really building up inside for some people. And it needs to be released in some way. Again, Gemini, all about communication here, right? Sun in Gemini, all about communication. Mars is a very, can be a very combative energy and also represents wonderful things such as courage and bravery and discovery for sure. But it can, we're looking at a square here between these transiting planets, and so some of you that are sensitive to this will either notice it in yourself or you might see it around you. Mars is also a very physical planet, and so this is telling me that if the expression of the feelings inside aren't coming out through an artistic means or through writing, that another way to get this energy out is going to be through some exercise. All right, some really good exercise. If you're a walker, maybe take it up an extra notch and put a little pace on it. But those of you that are joggers, or perhaps you have some other way in which you can work out and just get that energy released, it's going to be very important. Let's take a look at what happens in June. I just want to go to June for a moment, and I want to jump to, I'm going to bring her back to the 6th here, and we can see here is the sun at 15 degrees. Do we see this? 15 degrees. And then we have Mars at 15 degrees of Pisces. Now I'm bringing this up because my feeling is that this sense of buildup is going to be heading right into the month of June. On the 7th, we can see now, look at this exact square between the sun and Mars, this mutable square, and then we'll take her up to the 8th, where we are now at the critical degree for the mutable signs, which is the 17th. Now, if you have your natal chart out and your sun is in a mutable sign, that would be Pisces, Gemini, Virgo, or Sagittarius. If you are at 17 degrees in your natal chart, I'm talking about your natal planet, that's very significant. It gives extra weight. And so even with the transiting planets, I'm taking a little note that this is an exact square between the sun and Mars at 17 degrees and mutable signs. Even more suggesting, rather than letting things build up and build up, to use the month of May, use that time to get your creative juices flowing, start journaling, start writing, work on any type of creative project to get some of the energy out. If you can find some way to exercise safely, that also is going to be very, very helpful. And let's not forget also that the Earth trines also occurring throughout May, and we saw in the beginning of the month exact, are also going to be suggesting to us to just let a little bit of the tension go, take this time out to relax and enjoy the simple pleasures of home life. We may not have this opportunity for a long time to come. All right, that's your reading for May 2020. I want to thank you so much for being here as always. It's a pleasure and a privilege to share these interpretations with you. Thank you so very much, and I'll see you next time.